Good evening, I'm Maciej Mikos and you're watching World News Tonight live from Warsaw. Slovakia threatens to cut emergency energy supplies to Ukraine, while Hungary says it will block the EU's €90 billion loan for Kyiv. We'll have more on that in a moment, but first let's take a look at tonight's headlines. Trump says he will raise the global tariff rate from 10% to 15% after the U.S. Supreme Court ruled against the tariffs imposed under an economic emergency law. The election campaign in Hungary has officially started, with Peter Magyar taking on Viktor Orban, who has ruled the country for the last 16 years. And Molotov cocktails and fireworks were thrown at the Albania's Prime Minister's office as police used tear gas and water cannons against protesters in Tirana. Speaking exclusively to TVP World, a key advisor to President Zelensky hit back at Hungary and Slovakia after they threatened to cut off emergency electricity supplies and block a €90 billion EU loan to Ukraine. The deputy head of Ukraine's presidential called the moves purely political, speaking to our correspondent in Kyiv, Alex Kadier.
Well, these threats by Hungary and Slovakia will not come as a huge surprise to so many Ukrainians. We have seen Viktor Orban, Robert Fico, the prime ministers of Hungary and Slovakia, as opponents to Ukraine, enemies, as Viktor Orban described Ukraine. There will be frustration, there will be concern, of course, for two reasons. One, threat from Hungary blocking that €90 billion loan for Ukraine, €90 billion of which, by the way, Hungary will not contribute a single penny. Viktor Orban blocking other people's money from coming here to Ukraine. The other threat from Robert Fico, of course, the cut-off of emergency electricity supplies from Slovak companies coming into Ukraine. This as temperatures here in Kyiv and across the country remain freezing, remain under zero. Power cuts remain a reality, a daily reality for so many Ukrainians. Now, I spoke to Ihor Brusilo, who is a deputy head of the presidential office of President Zelensky's office. He's one of the president's key foreign policy advisors, and I asked him for his reaction to this announcement by Slovakia and Hungary. And I also asked him if Ukraine is fixing the pipeline.
They are frequent visitors to Moscow, and if they believe that there is something that Ukraine is preventing from happening in their countries, they can ask the leadership in Moscow, not to strike their Druzhba. About the pipeline itself, well, Ukraine is repairing and fixing on end constantly.
Now, other sources, Ukrainian sources outside of government that I've been speaking to in the last few days, say that the repairs of the Druzhba pipeline are technically difficult, but as you heard from Ihor Brusilo, they are ongoing according to Ukrainian sources. Now, there is also this issue of the €90 billion loan, perhaps even more urgent, because this was a vital financial lifeline for the Ukrainian state. 60 billion of those 90 billion will be going to military spending, to weapons, to defense, for Ukraine to be able to continue to defend itself. 30 billion, however, will be going to civilian needs of Ukrainians. I also pressed Ihor Brusilo very clearly, where will the money be going?
It's for the government to channel this money for the projects that will ensure the stability for the people. It's a budgetary support, it's a financial resilience, it's a banking support. So all this will be spent for the projects that make life in Ukraine normal for the people.
So that financial lifeline from the European Union, a lifeline that Hungary and Slovakia will not be contributing to, blocked by Hungary. Another lifeline, energy, electricity, blocked by Slovakia. This just a few days away from the anniversary of the start of Russia's full-scale invasion. As I said, not many here will be surprised, but certainly that financial lifeline and that energy lifeline still crucially needed here in Ukraine. In Kyiv, I'm Alex Kadier for TVP World.
The U.S. Supreme Court has ruled that President Donald Trump lacked the authority to introduce sweeping tariffs under emergency powers. In response to this ruling, Trump decided to impose the global 15% tariff. As TVP World learned, European lawmakers are set to discuss the potential impact on the EU-U.S. tariff deal on Monday. Kazimierz Łysiak reports.
In other words, they charge us, we charge them less. So how can anybody be upset? The answer to this question from over a year ago is the US Supreme Court. It ruled on Friday that Trump's sweeping tariffs he imposed on the world in 2025 were in fact unlawful.
The framers gave Congress alone the power to impose tariffs during peacetime, and the foreign affairs implications of tariffs do not make it any more likely that Congress would relinquish its tariff power through vague language or without careful limits.
The court's ruling concerns only the tariffs imposed under the International Emergency Economic Powers Act. The US president, who's made tariffs his go-to tool for political coercion throughout his term, has not taken lightly to this major setback.
Supreme Court's ruling on tariffs is deeply disappointing.
Apart from calling the 6 judges who ruled against him unpatriotic, Trump also immediately announced new tariffs under a different legal act.
Today I will sign an order to impose a 10% global tariff under Section 122 over and above our normal tariffs already being charged.
To only then raise them to 15% on Saturday.
I'll be effective immediately, raising the 10% worldwide tariff on countries to the fully allowed and legally tested 15% level.
Section 122 is a temporary measure allowing Trump to impose tariffs of up to 15% for 150 days. But there is essentially nothing stopping him from introducing them again when this deadline expires. It does, however, stop him from imposing tariffs over the 15% threshold.
In other words, Trump can no longer use tariffs as a weapon of choice at his will, which an authority he apparently never had.
Apart from causing Trump a major headache at home by undermining his promises to fix the country's economy, the ruling will also open Washington to major lawsuits. It's estimated the refunds could amount to a whopping 110 billion euros, but Trump won't be eager to make that happen.
It's not discussed. We'll end up being in court for the next 5 years.
That's going to be a long process, and I suspect the administration will slow it down and complicate it.
So what does all of that mean for Europe? Firstly, the ruling won't affect the industry-specific tariffs on steel and cars, some of the most significant exports to the US. Secondly, Trump's new global tariffs could impact the deal with the European Union, agreed in August of last year. It's unclear for now whether the deal will have to be renegotiated.
We remain in close contact with the US administration as we seek clarity on the steps they intend to take in response to this ruling.
Sources in the European Parliament told TVP World that the so-called shadow rapporteurs will meet on Monday to discuss how these new developments could affect the deal. While instability is trade's biggest enemy, the ruling of the US Supreme Court could actually put more cards in the hands of the European Union.
It's good to have checks and balances in democracies. We will look exactly at the consequences, what can be done, and we will adapt. Ultimately, what do we want? We want to continue exporting our products.
The European Parliament's Trade Committee is set to vote on the deal with the US on Tuesday. The outcome of that vote could now be affected. For TVP World, Kazimierz Łysiak.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. President.
It's the official start of the parliamentary election campaign in Hungary. However, major efforts to sway the public opinion began much earlier, with the ruling Fidesz doing its utmost to close the gap with the opposition Tisza party, widely favoured by pollsters ahead of the crucial vote this April. Our correspondent Andrew Sweeney has the latest from Hungary.
Hungary's official general election campaigning window opened today, and we saw candidates take to the streets of Budapest and other cities in Hungary to get 500 official nominations so that they could stand out as from members of the public. Of course, the two big parties have already got their lists in. That's the pro-Russian Fidesz, led by the 16 years incumbent Prime Minister Viktor Orban, and the pro-European Tisza party, led by Peter Magyar. Now, Fidesz's campaigning is pretty simple. Vote for us, or you're going to get war in Hungary. They've already released numerous AI-generated videos showing Hungarians being dragged off to war to fight for Ukraine, even one showing a man being executed. And they've turned Ukraine and Volodymyr Zelensky, the president, into something of a boogeyman in Hungary. Everywhere you go in Budapest and in other cities and towns, you see posters portraying him as a thief of Hungarian money, inclusive of the EU, or as an evil force determined to drag Hungary into a war. For Tisza, their messaging is a little bit more concise and focused on economics. The country is in a terrible state economically. It's one of the poorest in the EU. And they're also furious about what they say is systemic corruption, as well as cover-ups of scandals at children's care homes and of health and safety breaches, environmental leaks at battery factories, including one near Budapest, which saw a worker die just a week ago. Now, Fidesz's focus in Ukraine has resonated with some of the public. About 20% of Hungarian voters view Ukraine as an enemy. But Tisza is also still consistently ahead of the polls at the moment, about 10 to 11%. That gap is expected to narrow a little bit as we go further down into the campaign. And where this election will ultimately be won will not be in Budapest. It will be in the small towns and the rural areas of Hungary where Fidesz has traditionally weighed the votes up. Tisza is concentrating all of its campaigning there, and we can expect the real battlegrounds to be in these sort of areas. So the next key date to look out for, March 14th, is the commemoration of the Hungarian War of Independence in 1848. That war was fought against the Austrians, but it was put down brutally by the Russians, and the irony is perhaps lost on Viktor Orban. For TVP World in Budapest, Andrew Sweeney.
The Albanian capital, Tirana, became a scene of violent clashes with anti-riot police on Friday evening as the government faces accusations of corruption and demands for Prime Minister Edi Rama to resign his post. Our Balkans correspondent Paweł Trzaskowski has the details.
Violence in the streets of Tirana. Fireworks are being launched at the office of Edi Rama, the country's prime minister. Police respond with water cannons. Then come flames and more explosions. The Albanian capital has seen several clashes like this one since December last year. They followed the parliamentary outrage that erupted after the country's Special Prosecution Office accused the Prime Minister's deputy, Belinda Baluku, of corruption, suspecting possible interference in construction contracts worth more than 200 million euros. The ongoing protests, organized by the Albanian opposition, demand Prime Minister Rama's resignation.
In order to protect their loot, they are willing to sacrifice citizens and police officers. They are willing to set fire to Albania.
But Sali Berisha, the opposition leader, is himself facing corruption charges, and fire seems to be very much the protesters' domain, with pyrotechnics and even petrol bombs used during the demonstrations.
These are the homemade bombs with which police officers were attacked, burned and injured last night by the only political party in the democratic world that exercises violence.
And Prime Minister Rama has expressed nothing but support for his deputy. Earlier this month, he even proposed legal amendments that would prevent courts from suspending senior officials.
At the moment when a minister is suspended, it is not simply the individual's work that is suspended. The work of an institution is suspended.
The new law, if passed, would create a different legal environment for the highest Albanian officials, a move that could potentially be at odds with the country's EU aspirations. So far, there have been no explicit comments from Brussels on the matter. In November last year, Albania opened the last cluster of negotiations, hoping to join the bloc by 2030. Paweł Trzaskowski, TVP World.
And now it's time for an exclusive interview with Vitali Klitschko, the mayor of Kyiv, conducted by our correspondent in Ukraine, Oskar Taji.
We are here on the 4th anniversary of the Russian full-scale invasion of Ukraine, and we are privileged enough to speak with the mayor of Kyiv, Vitali Klitschko. Thank you so much for joining us on this show, Mr. Klitschko. To start with, could you tell us about your first memories of the war as it began unfolding 4 years ago?
We received information from secret forces, intelligence about invasion. have to be in 4 o'clock in the morning. And the night before the war, we doesn't sleep. And actually, in 4 o'clock and 5 o'clock in the morning, I received a call from military forces, and they told me the invasion is beginning. And Russians send helicopters and go through the border and bombing our military objects.
There's been a lot of reporting over the last few years about how Western intelligence officials really thought that Kyiv wouldn't survive the opening shots of the war. Did you worry about whether Kyiv would fall, or did you always have the belief that Kyiv would hold firm?
Kyiv was and still a main target of Russians. And from the beginning of the war, Russians tried to occupy our capital, because the heart of the country for Russians was symbolic. It's very important to do that. But they not expect our people staying, and so many people going to territorial defense and fighting, and actually battles was not so far from here, and they were 10 kilometers from center of Kyiv. It was not easy task for Russians. By the way, it's not just Russians. I think a lot of world experts have huge respect from Russian army, and they give to us a couple of days, maybe a couple of weeks. But we show right now the will to fight and defend our home country, and actually successfully defend already 4 years. Successfully because Putin tried to do it everything what he can, but he is not successful as he wants to do that. That's why we're still fighting, and by the way, I want to say thank you very much to our partners. It's critically important to us, the help, humanitarian help, financial support, defensive weapon. It's critically important for us, for Ukrainians. And thank you to our friends to support, because without support we can survive.
One final question on the starting point of the war. There were obviously rumors that Russia was trying to assassinate high-profile Ukrainian political figures. Did you consider fleeing the capital when the invasion began, and you chose to stay? What was behind the reasoning for choosing to stay despite all of the risks?
It's our hometown. It's actually the risk to occupy our hometown was big, and we actually prepare for fights inside the city.
So I've been living in Kyiv for 4 years now, so this winter has been the hardest of the war so far because of the temperatures, but also the Russian attacks on Ukrainian energy infrastructure. Can you tell us about the situation that Kyiv's residents are living through right now, and what's the situation like for them, and how is your administration working to alleviate their suffering?
You're right. This winter is pretty hard. It's coldest winter, I guess, in the last 10 years. Its temperature outside is sometimes minus 20 degrees. And the Russians use this situation and try to destroy our energy critical infrastructure, and they send a lot of rockets, and we have a lot of damages. Sometimes 6,000 buildings, half of the city was without heating, without water, without electricity, and they tried to make the city not available to give the services to the people. City without services, blackout. No electricity, no heating, no water. We actually fighting this winter was pretty hard to bring the services back. Huge respect from our municipal enterprises for all workers who work day and night to bring the services to the people. We do that, and next couple of days Russians sent again the missiles and destroyed, and we're starting from point zero. Right now, by the way, it's more than 1,000 buildings without heatings. Today it's outside, it's minus 10 degrees Celsius. And also we have the same situation not in our hometown, and also in different city in Ukraine. We have huge deficit of electricity. But thank you to our partners, we receive a lot of electric generators and fighting to give the services to everyone, to support everyone. It's big challenge. I never ever expect as mayor to have so difficult challenges in my job.
There's been a lot of external pressure from the United States on Ukraine in recent months, basically since the Trump administration came to office, both on trying to make concessions to Russia on these peace talks and to hold future elections in the near future. My question to you is, firstly, how do you feel these negotiations are going?
One person in the world can stop this war. The same person who's starting this war. I'm talking about President of Russia, Putin. Putin can easily stop this senseless war. And Russians accepted just strong position. If you're weak, they never ever pay attention to you. And that's why we have to be strong. In the front line, we have to be strong inside the country. We have to be strong together with our partners, because with partners we are times stronger. And that's why it's very important unity around Ukraine. Unity for democratic world, European country. Destability, one of the largest countries in Europe, can bring destability in the whole region, and that's why from peace in Ukraine depends the future in Europe. I hope everyone understands that. We fighting and defending not just our homeland, we defending every one of you. It will be biggest mistake to think the war far away. It doesn't touch me personally. It's biggest mistake. This war actually touched everyone in Ukraine. Millions of people. Already touched a lot of people in Europe. And also, it's not secret, the goal of Putin to rebuild Soviet Empire. They never accept Ukraine as independent country. They told Ukraine was always the part of Russian Empire. Exactly the same about Baltic countries, about Poland, Czech Republic, Slovakia. I tell to Germans, actually I spent 25 years in Germany, and in sick vision of Putin, the Germany belonged also to the Russian Empire, because Putin spent there years long as KGB agent. And that's why I tell to all partners, please support Ukraine. We're defending every one of you. It's very important to stop the Russians, to stop this war. And it's biggest task to everyone. And this war can touch, by the way, everyone on our planet. And that's why we have to do it everything what we can to stop this war, to make pressure on Putin, because Putin can easily in one moment to stop this war, because he begins this war.
Now, on the matter of elections, there's some publicized disputes between you and the president, but many opposition figures inside Ukraine have said that they don't want to see elections under martial law, and that the pressure from outside for Ukraine to hold elections is not the way Ukrainian people feel about the current situation politically. What's your position on that, and about the position of holding elections under martial law?
To make elections during the war is a poison for the country. Can you imagine? We have huge challenge from outside the Russian aggression. At the same time, to make political competition inside the country can destroy the country from inside. That's why I'm more than sure, first of all, stop the war. And after that, we can talk about election. But we have a lot of questions. First of all, peace negotiation definitely have to be not capitulation for Ukraine. We have to make our peace negotiation regarding our national interest, about our future, about guarantee, because small break can make some break for the Russians before the next invasion. And that's why guarantee is a very important point. And if we have answer for these many questions, just after that we can talk about election. Definitely election have to be, but after when war will be stopped.
Do you mind if I ask about your relationship with the president, Mr. Zelensky? When was the last time you spoke to him, and do you consider yourself a political rival of his?
I have a good relationship, but it's a good question to Zelensky. He's very unhappy. It's not smart. It's not smart make political competition and political games during the war. It's bad. Unity with all political forces inside the country make us stronger. And that's why the unity is a key for peace and freedom, especially inside the country. And that's why always I talk, please forget about political games. Right now, national interest have to be priority to every politician, for every citizens of our homeland. We have a lot of challenges. We never expect so huge challenges we have in our lives. And many Ukrainian heroes pay right now biggest price, his lives, for that. In the same time, to dreaming about political ambition, it's not smart, so to say.
Well, I have one more question on the political ambition, which was you've been running as mayor of Kyiv for a long time now. Will you be standing again after the war? Will you be trying to seek re-election for your position after the war?
I have one dream right now. This dream have every Ukrainian in one day coming the peaceful time. When coming this day, nobody know. If someone talk 4 years ago, the war will be so long, nobody believe. We don't know how long will be this war. We have a dream to bring peace back to Ukraine. It's the main wish. And we hope it happens. And other dreams, it's not important. This main dream for millions of people in my home country.
So my final question to you, Mr. Mayor, is, you've got people at home. This is now the 4th anniversary of Russia's full-scale invasion. Do you have a message for people, particularly in Europe, sat watching this interview? What more can be done, and what would you like Europeans to do for Ukraine?
I have a message to everyone. If you think the war far away from you, if you think this war doesn't touch you personally, it's the biggest mistake. Everyone have to do everything what we can to stop this war. Because it's danger. We never expect what happens right now. The biggest war after the Second World War. The millions of refugees, hundreds of thousands killing people, children, women, is big tragedy for Ukraine, is big tragedy for whole Europe, and also is big tragedy for Russia. The Russians afraid right now from dictatorship from Putin, but anyway they understand that how big is price for sick vision of Putin they pay every day, and that's why you have to be proactive and do it everything what you can to stop this war. And please, still support Ukraine. We have to be strong, and together we're time stronger, and we dream everyone about peace, and from us depend how soon peace coming back to Europe.
That was the Mayor, Vitali Klitschko. Thank you so much for joining us on TVP World.
You're welcome.
And that's all we've prepared for now. To watch the full interview with Vitali Klitschko, visit TVP World's channel on YouTube.